It's an honor to speak with you both.
Hi, William.
Thank you. You too.
Great to meet you. I've been a fan of both of yours. Sandman, since one of my favorites since I was a teenager. Young Avengers, honestly, I think is one of the most prescient comics that keeps being proving itself to be keeping up with the time. So it's great to talk to you both.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. So, Sandman, so much to say, but ultimately, this has always been a series about change. If there is a word for if time is happening, Sandman has always been about that word. So, obviously, here it is a very faithful adaptation, while at the same time a show that is malleable both to the changes of the times and changes of the medium. So, how did you guys talk about reconciling that and making sure that it kept its heart while also staying true to how things have progressed?
That honestly was what united us from the beginning. I had a vision for a way that you could do Sandman on television that involved making it Sandman. There was no point in making it any less than the thing that we'd already made. There was no point in getting back and making it worse. I'd spent 30 years protecting the world from adaptations of Sandman that would have just been painful, awful, and terrible things. When I met Alan, David Goyer put the two of us together and we talked about the show. And then Alan and David came up to my place in Woodstock and we spent 3 days talking about the show. And it was obvious that we were all talking about the same show. That the thing that we wanted to make, which I feel like we had made, was going, what is television? What is episodic television? What do we gain? How can we rethread some of the story in ways that will work for television? How can we take things that I would have loved to have done when I was doing the comics, but I only had 24 pages and I only had 6 panels a page. And I was having to make decisions all the way. I couldn't take, I couldn't take Rose's brother Jeb to the serial killer convention because I didn't have enough pages to cope with a plot thread that would have had him in it. So I locked him in the trunk of a car for the whole episode, for the whole issue, because it actually was the only way to deal with him. But now we had so much more time, things opened up. And we knew what we were doing. And I think we knew what we were doing. We kind of knew what we were doing.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like, because I came to the work as a fan really early on, but then I've been doing television for the last 20 years. And so by the time I reread the books, it was very much as a television writer. So before I met Neil, I remember saying to David Goyer, there's a lot of work for us to do to make this into a TV show. Dream is not in the doll's house for most of it. That was the sort of most obvious change we were going to have to make. And David assured me that Neil, who had just come from running Good Omens, knew all of this and understood all of it. And he did. I mean, Neil showed up and the first thing that Neil said was, we have to figure out a way to make it all Morpheus's story. How do we, and you were very gracious and said, let's just expand. Let's just give the comic book audience everything that they love and expect, and then more of that. So, that just opened the gateway. So a question like, hey, can I let Jed out of the trunk? I would call Neil and say, what would you think if Jed and Neil said, that would be fantastic. Let's do. So we would come at it sort of page by page and panel by panel and storyline by storyline. How do we weave all these threads together into a cohesive whole that, especially in Doll's House, that is an ongoing story. So we're not just seeing Morpheus in the next to the last episode. He's there presiding over the entire thing. That's probably the biggest change that we ended up making.
But what's fun with that is while we were doing that, I also did things like print out all of my original scripts and gave them to Alan. So he got to read the thinking, not, he knew the comics inside out, but now he's watching me explain things, think things through on the page, talk about plots that hadn't existed. Occasionally I would give him things. Here is a scene that I wrote when I wanted to do something here, but I couldn't. So I cut that whole scene, but here you go. Here's, you know, the Phantom Stranger and Morpheus meeting on the way back from hell and stuff.
That was amazing. Just as a fan to get this stuff. And the scripts are all conversations with the artist and with the editors. So you're really getting a peek into 28-year-old Neil Gaiman's day. You know, here's why this page, here's why these pages are late. Here's what's happening in my laundry room right now. It's fantastic. I wish they would publish these. Yeah. So,
No.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, I love that you guys don't stretch anything, you know, like Sound of Her Wings is a 20-minute short film, and that's what it should be, you know, just like it's perfect the way it is. So question though, because we're running out of time.
Sorry.
But in terms of the ways that you guys could expand this in the future, I mean, how planned out are the future seasons adapting these other works, and how much on the cutting room floor is there that you have to explore in those seasons? Like, is this going to be a straight adaptation? Are we going through the books as they are, or have you left yourself a lot of room to play and even possibly create new stories?
I think the answer is both. We haven't needed yet to create new stories, because normally when we look at the wall that we are trying to build and we see a hole in there that we need to fill, there's a lot of Sandman. There's 3,000 pages of Sandman. So we can go, hey, that little story, you know, that little 6-pager that I wrote for this thing here, actually, that would fill that tiny hole in the wall perfectly. So far, it's not that we'd be averse to it, but we haven't needed to just sort of create something in whole cloth, because there is so much there to adapt that the joy is seeing if there is something that we can take and shift and build.
I think for me, the best example from this season is the Morpheus Lucien arc in Doll's House, which is not in the comic, but it's implied. Do you know, like, we just sort of, well, what's going on in the palace while Rose is being chased around by, you know, the Corinthian, and it was just being able to dig deeper into the Morpheus Lucien relationship. So we didn't invent anything, but we were able to sort of dig deeper and tell an untold Sandman story in a way. And that, I think, is how we'd like to keep moving forward.
We do have, if we get to season 2, which we hope that we will, we have actually planned out there is a new sequence that we have planned out for the middle of Season of Mists, which plugs the Season of Mists into Game of You in ways that, again, are absolutely implicit in the story, but that we are now going to make very explicit.
That's amazing. I can't wait.
Know what you were talking about. Now I remember, and I'm very excited. Yes.
I'm very excited too, but I'm afraid that's all the time we have. It was great meeting you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Such
you,
great
Leighton.
questions. And thank you for the kind
you.
words as well.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Hopefully we'll talk again for season 2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.